Hey everyone, welcome to another Splinterlands Town Hall. It is noon Eastern Time on June 20th, 2024. I think today might be the longest day of the year. It's either the 20th or the 21st. I don't know why they change it. Um, that darn sun and rotation around it. Um, but yeah, so happy maybe longest day of the year to everyone. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. And I'm going to try to, kind of cover everything that's going on. We have Nate, we have Investigator here as usual, who are going to cover their areas of expertise within the game. Um, and then at the end, as always, we will take questions from the audience. As most of you know, we don't have any pre sorted questions because I have been taking the opportunity to go through and answer questions in the town hall channel in Discord, on a somewhat regular basis in between town halls. So you don't have to wait a month anymore to get your questions answered. So I encourage everyone to go and put questions in the town hall channel. Um, you know, except for while we're actually doing the call until we get to the question section. If anything comes up, and I will answer them as soon as I get some free time. So that seems like it's been going well, and I plan to keep doing that. Um, I wanted to start with a high level of things before we kind of get into the nitty gritty with investigator and eye candy and all that stuff with Nate. High level, I know things have been difficult. It's been a difficult, few years. But the way I look at it is that to me, I talked about this last time. I think this feels almost exactly like 2020 in a lot of ways to me. I remember that year; it was very difficult. There was a lot of negativity. Things seemed sort of doomed. And what actually happened was a complete opposite of that in 2021. And I don't think it's coincidence that this year 2024 feels like 2020, just because crypto and bitcoin and these markets typically go in these 4-year cycles, and I think splinterlands is also caught up in that cycle. So you know I really truly do expect that this time will not be different than last time, and I think next year is going to be just potentially a very crazy year for splinterlands and a lot of other projects in the web3 blockchain space. But the big difference and the thing that actually really excites me the most is we're actually ready for it this time. I've talked about this before, but I'll rehash. Like last time, we were completely and utterly not ready for it. We had a very small team. The tech didn't work. The game was crashing. It was just an absolute complete disaster. And we scrambled the whole time just to keep the site working, to get new people in here that can run things a lot better. So now we are like 100% in the position to handle that, like when things turn around, when we get floods of new players, and floods of transactions and battles and all that stuff. Like we have the team, we have the tech in place, so we will be ready. And I think one of the big issues also of not being ready last time is also our whole game economy, like everything. It just also wasn't ready, right? And we ended up with this situation where the game sort of turned into basically just a yield farming application at the end of the day, which was most of projects in the space, and everyone was very happy with that at the time because values were going up and prices were going up and et cetera. And we'd never experienced anything like this before, and our focus was like on making sure the site stayed up and making sure there was enough product for everybody to buy throughout that time, rather than like figuring out how to build a game experience that works well in a you know growing environment. So again, I think like that's why I'm in 2021 I was actually not very excited and happy about what was going on, because we were like failing so miserably at um, dealing with it for a long time. And then by the time I feel like we got to a point where we had the team and everyone was in place to handle everything, then the bottom fell out of it. And then we were also scrambling to figure that out because we were planning for like continued growth. So there was like I feel like there were mistakes all around, and we've been through that before. So I'm like, I am very clear in my head what happened, what we did wrong, what we could have done better. So like that's why I'm very excited for the opportunity, within the next year or so to for this to happen again, because I feel like we're really ready, both from a tech and staffing perspective, and just from an understanding of this space and how to like build these things, how to not just give out like free stuff to a million like, huge bot armies all the time. All like we'll be ready from the experience, the game experience perspective. And so even though again the bottom's going to fall out at some point, it's not going to keep going up forever. Um, I think we'll be ready and in a good position to deal with that and handle that, so we have a much smoother experience through the next cycle. So that's like what we've been doing this year. I feel like this year has been a transition year. It's been not only a transition in leadership and direction of the company, but that leads to a transition to just how this whole game, how this ecosystem, how everything operates. And that's been tough. Like transitions are tough, and we still have a ton of people, we had and we still even have people who were really still here for the yield farming aspect of it and not for the game aspect of it. I think we're kind of getting towards the end of that. And as we transition more of the product toward a gamer experience and less of a yield farming experience, the people that are still around who prefer the yield farming experience are going to continue to leave, and that will continue to have negative pressures on things for a while. But that's part of the transitioning phase. I mean, there's no real way we can deal with that other than just dealing with it. It's like, you gotta rip the band-aid off, and it hurts for a little bit. But that the goal of all this is to be ready, for what I think is going to come next year, and not just like sit around and wait for it and be ready. Like, actually build up into it. All the things we're working on is to try to make sure, when we have the opportunity to bring new players in, we're going to go out and get them. We're not going to assume they're just going to come, as we did in the past. We're planning to do serious marketing and promotion like we've never done before. Um, and we're planning to have the gameplay experience, as particularly the onboarding experience, be much better to retain many more of those players, and not just have it be, again, like that type of yield farming monthly ROI experience, but like a much more rich and engaging game experience that people, the people that come in want to stick around and be a part of for years to come, regardless of what asset prices do. So it can be hard sometimes when you're in the day to day of things, and there are issues, or there are things that you don't like, or things seem slow, or whatever it is. Um, but I'm in the day to day, obviously, like most of our players and our employees. That's like literally why it's called day to day. It's what we do every day. But these town halls, I think, are actually good for me, along with hopefully everybody else. It's like an opportunity to take a step back, and just look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that, like, you know I don't know what's going to happen for sure, but if I had to bet on it, I would say this 4-year cycle is going to be like the last bunch of them, and next year is going to be really really big things for Splinterlands, and it's going to be even bigger than it was in the past because we're going to be ready for it, and we're gonna capitalize on it better, and the down times after that are not going to be as bad again because we'll be ready for it, and we're not going to make the same mistakes that we made in the past. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm still doing this. If I really didn't think, you know, it was gonna turn around and get a whole lot better, um, we wouldn't still be doing this. We'd be coming up with some other plan. I don't know, but yeah, like it's just it's hard to bet against what happens every time. It's hard to say this time's going to be different. So I look at end of this year and 2025. I expect some fireworks are going to happen. Um, and like I said, Splinterlands is going to be well primed to take advantage of it. So I'm going to talk more about specifically what we're doing, all the different things on everybody's mind, from the details of the onboarding and new player experience stuff we're working on, land. We're going to talk about tower defense, the fair play policy enforcement stuff we've been working on, soulbound reward cards, validators, all these things. But I'm going to do that after I turn it over to Investigator, and Nate, investigators, going to talk about more day to day what we've released recently, what we're working on, what you can expect coming up in the next releases. And then Nate, as I'm sure needs no introduction, we're hopefully going to see some cool eye candy today. So take it away.
Okay, so with doing monthly town halls, there's been a lot since the last town hall that's been added to the game. I'm not going to recap everything. It is in the release notes, but I'll talk about what's coming up. So we just did the update a couple days ago for the upcoming conflict release. So the summoner whose name I will not try to pronounce, but I will say Bulldog's design summoner should be coming out to the game pretty coming into the next conflict pretty soon. Since we are going week by week, you'd think that the next one is not going to be a big update, but you'd be wrong. So we are adding all of the backend support for the Soulkeep release. Soulkeep should be releasing next week, per our understanding, and we are planning to deploy the pack opening, combining, renting, all of the card functionality that we've had ready to go for a while. Also, we should be releasing the tech modernized version of tournaments either this release or the following one. I should find out after today's testing, sometime after the town hall, if there's any issues found. But hopefully, we will be rolling that out on Tuesday, unless anything major comes up, which is true about pretty much everything that we talk about on these. There are a number of other smaller updates. So we are going to be adding a number localization option. So for users that like to see commas and periods instead of commas, we will be adding an option to localize most of the number displays. We may not have caught everywhere in the game because there's a lot of pages on the UI, but it should localize a lot more of the displays. There's a couple small UI UX improvements. The reward shop draw openings will now have sound that will play when you buy draws and get the little video. We are adding some imagery to the combine all warning, similar to the individual combine and burns, to give you a better visual indicator, especially if you don't speak English as your primary language, about what those buttons do and what you're about to confer. We're also doing some text cleanup on the non-card market for titles and totems to make it clear what their land bonuses are. And we will also probably, this also dependent on testing, releasing the backend for one-click rentals, which is essentially a card set system. So you will be able to choose collections of cards and put them into a set, which you can then list that set for rent as a seasonal rental, which basically the one-click rentals for new players is going to be a subset of that. We will be having specific templates of cards. So if your cards match this specific set, then you can put them up and they will be available for the one-click rental. UI is not going to be there for this update unless Antioch gets a whole lot of work done tonight. Realistically, we're expecting the following update to actually have all the UI changes for handling the new player one-click rentals. If any of our third-party developers want to set up some UI for the set rentals and set creation, they can have at it after we add the backend. I guess a few things to note with sets. So once you lock cards in a set, they can't be combined, traded, individually listed on the market, staked on land. You can still play with them as long as they're not rented. or listed for rent. Um, so really, the intent is to package these up into sets that you either want to list for rent or want to keep for play and make sure you don't do other things with. We may expand the system in the future, especially if Nate has anything to say about it. But with any luck, the back end for this should all be ready for the next update. Um, and those are the major things coming out in the next update. Once the tournaments are done, we are already working on the guild conversion into tech modernization. So get all those pages moved over. The only thing outstanding besides guilds at this point would be the actual battles and tutorial, which is a major thing we want to get done in the next, hopefully, quarter. Finally get battles into tech modernization, which will be a much better experience for everybody. I think those are the main things. I don't know if you want me to get into more future things with what we're thinking about for land, or if you want to talk about that, Matt,
We'll get to
once the
those, later on. I have a more
later.
general land update, and you guys can jump in for that.
But that's the immediate update. So we should get hopefully tech modernized tournaments, Soul Keep, and back end for one-click rentals. This upcoming update, following update should be the front end for one-click rentals, and we'll see what else we have ready by then.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to all the other stuff, like the one-click rentals has been, on the drawing board for a long time. I think that's going to be a major part of our, new player onboarding experience. So, obviously everyone's talked about for a long time how crappy it is when people come in and they just have the starter cards, and you just kind of get destroyed in all the battles. So now it's like part of the experience when you buy your spell book. It's just like click here. You already have the credits that you got from the spell book, and then you get a bronze level set of all the cards, so you can go and actually be much more competitive right out of the gate. I think that's going to be awesome. And then going forward, also, you can just keep using that option, until or whenever new players decide they want to kind of take matters into their own hands or not. And we want to, like Investigator was saying, expand that into like there's the option just for like that's offered directly to new players, but open it up more to have like these general sets of different levels and different amounts of cards just available for rent. So, new or existing players can come in and say, okay, I just want to one click rent an entire silver league level set or max level set or whatever it is. Or I want, Chaos Legion and Rebellion cards, or I just want Chaos Legion cards, or I want, older cards playing whatever it is. Like there'll hopefully be just like a lot of different options that people have to create sets of cards and offer them to players. So that's a really big feature, that is coming soon and something to look forward to. All right, Nate, sounds like you're up.
I'm up. Yay. I want to start off by saying huge thank you to the community, you, the players, the 6-year celebration event that happened, recently was a huge success. I mean, our the social media interaction, the engagement, the impressions was through the roof. Everyone was just high fiving and supporting each other on the X platform. That finally bled into the big finale at the end with the grand, huge tournament, the rise of the champion, and I thought that was amazing as heck. I mean, I participated. Um, I think I was somewhere in the middle there. So I held my own, I think. Um, and it was just a lot of fun for everybody. So I can't wait to see more of that. I know that you guys have heard on previous town halls. Matt's like, well, we're going to get to the marketing. And a lot of you are like, well, we don't want to wait. And that's fine. You don't have to wait. And we've proven that organic growth, there's a lot of value with that. Word of mouth, you guys are helping to make that happen, and that's great. It was just great to see. I just want to say big thank you, and I look forward to having a big social media campaign like that in the future once more. Um, Also, another big thank you to those of you who are participating in the UX or the suggestions channel, or really any of the Discord channels where you are just providing constructive feedback and suggestions. Lilyfire is always keen to poke me in the eye before every town hall and say, "Hey, don't forget to thank them." I'm like, "Yeah," and it really speaks to. I mean, you heard about every town hall. You hear Harry just rattle off all these things and these improvements, and a lot of them are quality of life sometimes, including what the whole card combine and leveling up and seeing the prompt and everything. I think if I remember correctly, Royal Eagle, that stemmed from the players, right? That was something that just like a lot of stuff does. So we hear you, we see you. Please keep contributing. You guys are, I mean, our player base is so intelligent and so passionate. Um, and so it really does feel like we're partners in elevating the entire game ecosystem, which leads me to the third big thank you, which is the new chats. As a lot of you guys are already aware, we kind of archived the Mavs chat, replaced it with 3 private channels. One centers around your investment when it comes to cards. The other one has to do with your investment when it comes to land, and then finally your investment when it comes to SPS that you have on your account. Um, and since that's occurred, I mean, I know that everyone can't see what's happening in there because it's private now, but wow, the sentiment, the support, the positivity, it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's just it's overwhelming. It brings a tear to my eye. Because before in the before time, we'll call it the before time, got a little salty, right? It was kind of like a downer. It kind of like soul sucking a certain extent. Now I go into these chats and I'm like, I'm almost distracted from work. I'm like, oh, these guys are fun to hang out with. Everyone's high fiving, and it's not like a bunch of yes men. You guys aren't like just saying, oh, we're just gonna drink the Kool-Aid. You got every single chat channel, I'm seeing such brainstorming, such productive ideas. Like, hey, have we thought about doing this? I think this would be a good idea. And half the time it's like, that is a good idea. Let's add that to the list of maybe our future to-dos, or maybe we could factor that in a quality life. So it's just it's night and day. It's amazing. And again, thank you guys. If you're not familiar yet with how to attain access to any of those 3 channels, I believe that's pinned. I think Royal Eagle pinned it in Discord so that people could see, well, what do I got to get? What do I got to do? I don't know if Royal or Lily or any of you can throw that into the town hall chat so people could just see what they got to do. But I would encourage all of you. I think I have high hopes for the future. I'd like to see more surveys and polls in those channels to kind of get your guys' opinions on design and development thoughts and ideas. I'd like to start sharing, maybe like I'm going to share a little bit today in the town hall, but share maybe some ABCD sketches or concepts. Hey, what do you guys think? Which one looks cooler? And give you guys an opportunity to just kind of like play a part as the original mouse chat was intended. I think it's going to be really cool, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds with these new channels. Now, having said all that, so I think those are the thank yous. Last town hall, we shared what we called a progress map. Matt had a good idea. He said, well, what if we restructure this thing a little bit differently? Let's categorize it by the types of things that are being worked on in parallel with one another. And I was like, okay, sure. So we reorganized it. And so now I'm dubbing this, instead of calling it a progress map, I'm calling it a focus map. So we started with a roadmap, then we went to progress map. Now we're in focus map. And I think a lot of you will appreciate the I don't know, the changing of gears, the slightly different direction. So here is what a focus map looks like for Splinterlands. And essentially it's obviously categorized by conflicts, new player experience, rank play, so forth and so on. But as you can see, there's a lot of streams running in parallel. It's the company. A lot of you guys are like wondering, what are we doing behind the scenes? Um, there, I mean, there's a lot going on. That's a peek behind the curtain. That is essentially where our focus is at on trying to figure out what we could do this year. And Matt, I'm sure, and even Harry will probably have more to speak on that later on in this town hall, as people ask questions or touch upon some of the topics on there. But I will say that yeah, all of those things are a focus right now. And even though some of you may look at that stuff and say, "Well, wait a minute, this thing's not on there." Well, sure, but that's okay. There's a whole ton load of stuff that we want to get to. It's just not our immediate focus right now. And as soon as we start, taking off those tags and saying done, done, then maybe some of this other stuff could be added to it, right? So it's not like those things don't exist and they're not completely, off our radar, but it's just this is what we're working on right now. And I think that's what Matt wanted to emphasize with the community is like, hey, look, if you guys are wondering, it gets brought up every so often, like, what are you guys doing? Well, we keep saying what we're doing, and here is a visual representation of that. So I'll touch on a little bit of this stuff. Matt said before the town hall started, we were chatting, and he said, yeah, he has a big list of things he wants to talk about. So I'm not going to take too long, but I will touch on a few things just so that we can get some eye candy. And let's see, the top of the thing is what? Conflicts. So let's talk about conflicts. So as Harry pointed out, this guy, Cryptic, I'll drop him in here for those of you guys haven't seen him yet. I think most of you have, though. But if you just joined the town hall or just joined the game recently, this guy named Cryptic is going to be airdropped pretty darn soon in the most current conflict, and that's in like just a little over a day from now. So I don't know. Get ready for some new strategies and tactics in your gameplay because that's going to be a lot of fun. And he's water death, and death is, heck, as you all know, it's one of my favorite elements. So I'm really looking forward to it. As soon as that guy drops, and you guys have seen the blog post, if you haven't already, then as Harry pointed out, and oh, Harry, so I even asked Joey, the narrative lead, right before this town hall, like, how do you pronounce the squirrel's name? I don't want to screw it up. It's Risk Cruel Drath. So imagine Risk and then the word cruel, like ha, and then Drath. Risk Cruel Drath is his name. And here he is, if you haven't seen him already from the blog post. But he's pretty cool. A little squirrel guy. And it's in a little over a day when the new conflict starts. The intro video that plays for that conflict, I think it's one of my favorite conflict videos yet, and you'll see why. It's kind of has its funny parts, and it's because of the little squirrel guy. Let's see what else is on this focus map. We also have for rank play. I'm looking forward to it. I feel bad because I was saying, Harry, when are we going to have these league tier enhancements done? And he's like, well, Nate, we don't have all the animations yet. I'm like, crap. So hopefully, Harry, you have all the animations now. But just to give you a sneak peek, I think I shared this a long time ago. These animations have been sitting in a box for a really long time. So I'm really glad that we're able to blow the dust off and finally get this in your guys' eyeballs. So when you guys unlock a new tier, the idea is that a screen pops up celebrating that you unlocked it and showing some cool animation to show, like, here's one for if you're in bronze 2 and you move over to bronze 1, it has the bronze 2 badge, right? And then it starts doing the transformer thing and it turns into the bronze 1 badge. So here's an example of that. I'll pop it in there. So and if you think that looks cool, imagine what the modern badges look like, or the silver, gold, champion badges. They just look cooler and cooler, right? I mean, if bronze looks that cool, imagine the other ones. So I'm really looking forward to that. Part of the league enhancements also involve adding a little bit more weight to what it means when you move to the next league tier. Right now, it feels just like, I don't know, a little meaningless other than the seasonal reset. So we have some cool little ideas that we're trying to implement or experiment with or test out that will, when you achieve that next league tier, it'll be something to celebrate. It won't just be like, click the button, keep grinding away. So I'm really excited about that too. So I think you guys will be happy when you see it. What else is on that focus map? Oh, speaking of conflicts, something I wanted to say is this is a wallpaper for the next conflict. At first glance, it's like, what am I looking at? But I think it's cool. It's just part of our world building. The art prompt that Joey, our narrative lead, gave to the art team was basically, hey, can you go ahead and give an aerial view of the city of Fireborough, which I guess is the capital city of the Republic of Fireborough. Now, this city is located in a caldera. And if you're wondering, well, where's that at, Nate? Because maybe you own a plot of land, right? It's actually in eastern Pretoria in the Great Lowlands. So if you have any plots in the Great Lowlands in eastern Pretoria, then maybe you're, situated somewhere near where this conflict takes place. But essentially, I thought it was cool because it showed the caldera and a town inside. And at the center of that town, you see that there's some sort of magical conflict taking place. So when you watch the intro clip, watch it all the way to the end, and you'll have a better understanding of what's that little fight that's going on down at the very center of town. So that I thought that was cool. So I figured I'd share that with you and use it as a wallpaper if you so desire. Finally, I think probably the big oh no, let me talk about this real quick before I get to that. Harry touched upon set rentals. I thought it would be fun to share just a little screenshot. But I'm saying that with Matt's always keen to have this disclaimer. Everything's subject to change. And when I'm looking at it, I already see a couple things that we would indeed change. But at least it gives you an idea of the directive that Matt gave us when it came to these one-click rentals. So um, let's say you just got a spell book and you're like, hey, what do I do now? I want to get off and jumpstart my experience with Splinterlands. I want to start fighting with some decent cards right away. Then you might see something like this. It won't be exactly like that, but you can see how some cool background art, like a marketplace where some merchant is selling bundles of these magical cards, as a set. You can see how you can just kind of like say, hey, I just want to spend some of my spellbook credits, and boom, you're off to the races. So that's a pretty cool idea, and I think that it's really going to help, like with the new player experience. So finally, I said I would be quick, but here I am rambling. I thought it would be fun. We are neck deep right now in testing the next batch of reward cards, and we're I don't think right now, unless Matt says otherwise, we are not giving dates or deadlines by any means. But I will say that it's pedal to the metal. Like we're trying to hurry up and get this stuff done as soon as we possibly can. So I figure, hey, why not? I'll share some sketches. Um, a lot of times the art team tries to superimpose or overlay card frames so that they see where the artwork is going to be situated. So when I share a couple of these sketches, don't look at the card frame or any abilities. That's meaningless. These are not the stats for these cards. These are just, little overlay templates so that we can position the artwork. That's all that is. So before you guys get ahead of yourselves or anything, um, this guy right here is cute. He is a little Mariput slinger is what we're calling him right now, and he's just like doing the sling thing. Um, Another sketch that I have is for this one's for fire. Actually, I think we moved the Mariput slinger to death. We'll see how that turns out. We're still in testing. Things are getting moved and shuffled around, so we'll see where this little guy ends up. But probably death now. Um, Here is some of the ideas of what I asked from the art team. Is like, hey, when we're conceptualizing a character, give me a few options. So let's say, well, what if we do it this way or that way or whatever? So I'll give you guys a second to guess which pose we went through. We decided to go with um, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep that in your head. Is it A, B, C, or D? It ended up being A. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to just share sketches, so I'll share at least one rendered character with you. I thought this one was cool. It's the Amber Guard, and we ended up going with the first pose, which is A. I think she turned out pretty darn cool. I mean, what do you guys think? I think she looks that looks like a pretty sweet card. So I think it'd be fun to play that card just by virtue. She just looks that cool. Um, now probably I'm gonna see, no promises, but I would love to do something similar to what we did with Rebellion, where we have all our influencers, our live streamers, people who go and work every single day to put out the good word of Splinterlands, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube or blog posting or whatever they're doing on X. Um, I think I might. We got to see. It really boils down to how soon we can get the stats and abilities finalized. And if there's a segment of cards that the stats are like, okay, these probably aren't going to change, then we'll consider doing that, and maybe you'll start seeing some more of these rendered artwork, and maybe even some stats and abilities from following your favorite YouTuber or Splinterlands influencer or social media person. So. Um, I'll talk to the creative side, and maybe we'll put out another what did we do last time, like a Google form, so we can get your information, and we'll see if there's any new folks who want to participate. I think that's mostly what I got on my end, so I will pass the baton to you, Matt.
All right, thank you, Nate. And I just want to remind the community this is the first time I'm seeing all this artwork too. So it's just as I'm sitting here very intently watching all this while Nate's talking. So it's pretty exciting. Um, all right, yeah, I have like more recently with the town halls, I've started putting down notes together beforehand to try to have it be more organized and not just me rambling as much. So hopefully that's helpful and kind of throws flows through with more clear topics and thoughts. So I kind of wanted to start with what I think is the most important thing for everything, the new business, the business as a whole, the ecosystem, asset prices, everything, and it's really on new player onboarding. Like we haven't even really to date ever focused on like how do we bring new players into the game and turn them into you guys, our community, that sticks around and supports us. Um, and part of that's because that's never suggested, right? I mean, it's like, I mean, it's suggested generally like, hey, we should do that. But on all of these town halls and all the SPS proposals and all the DMs I get, there's idea after idea after idea, of things we should do in the game. And the thing is, most of them are good ideas, right? They're not bad things. Some are, in my opinion, but most of them are like, yeah, that would be great, that would be fun, that's a neat feature, like we should do that. And we hear from the community, why haven't you done this? We've talked about this for so long, and we just keep, month after month, year after year, we work on all these things. And then what we don't do though is look at what happens when new people come to this game. And there was even a suggestion recently that we don't focus on that and we focus more on getting our existing players to stick around. And I'm like, well, that's what we've been trying to do. And those comments usually come with, oh, if you do X, Y, and Z, then players aren't going to leave as much. But the problem is, for every one person who thinks we should do X, some people think we should do the exact opposite. So if we do X, then the people who think we should do the opposite might leave. And if we, don't do X, then those people think we should might leave. And so it's been difficult. And one of the things also is that if we focus on just simply trying to keep players from leaving, then even if we are completely successful at that, we effectively will get it from going downhill to maybe flat at best. Like that's the best we can possibly achieve. Whereas my goal and what we need to do is we need to grow significantly. So one of the things I want to like announce, or make sure everyone's aware of, is that my plan is we are going to start focusing more of our resources on getting new players in and making sure they have a good experience when they come in, so that they hopefully become avid players and participants in the ecosystem. And so what that means is we are going to have less resources available to do all of the other ideas that you guys want. It's unfortunate, but it's true. I mean, the reality is, I think we have 5 developers to work on things. And you saw the focus map that Nate posted. Like there's basically 5 developers, and those developers also still have to like keep the game running and manage issues and all the other stuff. And it's like, so we don't there's like no way we can really like do all that stuff on the focus map, um and also really focus on the issues bringing in new players. So that's why, so when I appreciate all the ideas, I want people to keep suggesting ideas, but often the expectation is going to be that our answer is that's a great idea, we're not worrying about that now. And I know also a lot of people say, well, if you had these things, or if these things work differently, then new players would probably stick around more. This is why new players, are probably leaving. And I also thought that for a while, but only in like the last month or so did we actually start looking at what was happening, with people coming into the game, and it was pretty eye opening, and also I think in a way, pretty exciting. So, like one thing I want to share, and you can see this. I don't know if anyone looks at like the Peak Monsters dashboard page, that they have with like stats about the game, but we have about 100 signups to the game every single day. Um, and for a while, that was sort of like, you know, I guess we didn't even really look at that much, like what was happening with these people who were signing up, because again, we were focusing on all the other things, what's happening with ranked battles and reward cards and all these other things. And it was even thought that probably a lot of those signups were just bots that were just creating new accounts to battle against themselves with the starter cards to be able to move up more easily. But we actually started looking into it, and as far as we can tell, at least most of those accounts seem to be actual new people coming to the game and signing up, um, which is very good. We're not doing it much marketing or any marketing or promotion or anything, but we have about 100 people that come to the website every day and sign up. The flip side of that is almost zero of them even get to the point of playing one battle, which I guess isn't surprising in the sense that we haven't even looked at that. We haven't even focused on that at all. There's probably a lot of things that just flat out don't work in that process, for all I know. We're looking at, are those people coming in through mobile, right? Maybe the mobile experience isn't good or not working or having problems. So to me, that's why I'm also like, all right, well, we're focusing on these things like, oh, the new players, they're going to get into bronze and they're going to have a bad experience and they're going to leave, or they're going to do this or that. They're not even getting anywhere close to that. So we need, like, it's very important. I want the community to understand, like, this is what we are going to be focusing on, as much as possible for the near future, because I think it's a very fixable problem. I think it's we're already working on putting in a lot of analytics to track exactly what is happening, um, and like where, if things aren't working, what's not working, where people are dropping off, and then we're going to spend time and we're going to fix those things as just part of the whole onboarding experience. And that means, and this is also why I've been talking about, like, I don't want to do marketing yet. If this is the case and we went out and we spent any time or effort or money on marketing, it would just be wasted if people are going to come in and they're not even going to be able to get to the point of playing a single battle. So, we're going to do this first as a highest priority project. And even without marketing, if we are able to start converting some percentage of those 100 signups a day into players, like, that's a huge win. And we don't even have to do any marketing. That's already what's coming in. And if we can do that, if we can, and it's easily trackable, we can see, how that's going. And if we get it up to a level where we're like, yeah, that's a pretty decent conversion rate, then we know if we go out and do marketing and we increase that 100 signups to 1,000 signups, that we can accurately predict how many of them become active players. So, I'm saying all this, one, because it's like, it's exciting. I feel like, in the sense that, like, we've sort of like identified a clear way and a clear path forward that's not even that difficult to start getting, a significant number of new players into the game. And that's the thing that's going to lead to growth. Like, nothing else is going to lead to growth in the game over the long term, other than bringing in, new players in significant numbers. So, and to me also, that's like the best thing that we can do to help existing players want to stay, right? If lots of new players start coming in and they spend money in the game, um, then for existing players, I would imagine like that's a great reason to stick around, even if there's other smaller problems in the ecosystem. If things are growing and doing better, it helps all around. So I just want people to know, because I still think there's going to be a lot of ideas. They're all good ideas for the most part, and people get annoyed at us when if they don't happen. Um, that's why. It's because we're going to be focusing more on these things. And then it's not just like fixing what any technical issues or whatever and making sure they have a smooth experience, but also you know we need to make sure it's not just a smooth experience, but it's like a good experience. And we're talking about ways to not like just stick the spell book purchasing in front of them before they can really do anything. So we've been brainstorming, and there's a lot of ideas. And I think part of the new player experience that we're going to have is that you're going to be able to participate in most parts of the game without having to purchase a spell book. And it'll just be a case where you'll only be able to earn soulbound things. So now that we have soulbound reward cards and stuff, we're able to let people potentially earn glint and maybe have a subset of the options available in the glint shop where they can get soulbound reward cards. So it'd be just like a traditional free to play game. You come in, you sign up, you can play, you can earn these rewards that aren't tradable. You can build up your deck and you can do better. And then over this period, will hopefully be able to explain to them and get them to understand why they want to buy a spell book, why they want to start getting assets that they can sell. There's also no reason why, if some people want to come in and purchase packs and cards and all that stuff, why they technically shouldn't be able to do that. Um, Without buying a spell book. Now they wouldn't actually have like a wallet, and so they wouldn't be able to sell those cards or take anything out of the game. But like if people want to start with the traditional free to play game experience, with purchase options, they should be able to do all that. And then instead of just saying, hey, before you can even really do anything in Splinterlands, pay $10, it's more like have them play, have them see card rentals and card sales and SPS and all these things, and just say like, hey, if you buy this summoner spell book, now you all of a sudden get access to these things. Um, so that's like part of this whole onboarding experience that we want to build out, rather than having this paywall right up front. And again, that's going to be part of our focus over the next the rest of this year, and we're going to try to get it done as quickly as possible. And then again, once we have those stats, we're going to track the stats on all this, and we might A/B test things. How does it work with this messaging versus this messaging? What gets more people to go to the next step or buy the spell book or whatever it is? And once we get the stats up to a certain level, certain conversion rate, then it's like go market. I talked about getting a really good experienced Web3 marketer on board, which we've never had in this company, to figure out what. And I'm not even going to propose ideas because I'm not a marketer, but someone that's experienced at this should be able to look at what we have, our assets, our opportunity, our player base, and say, yeah, this is what we can do to bring the most eyeballs to this. And then we know we have a certain conversion rate. So it's going to be a little while before this all falls into place. It might not be till early next year. And for our existing players, it might be frustrating while we're not working on all these other things that you guys might want in the meantime. Um, but like I said, I think next year is going to be the big year. And for those of you who stick around for it, that this is how we make it happen, right? This is how we capitalize on it. If we go into next year and it's a big year, but our onboarding experience is still this bad, we're going to waste it. And it's not going to help anybody, even if we've done some of the other features that people might want. So that's like the most important message I want to get across. I'm probably going to repeat this message in future town halls. I'm going to repeat it when people ask questions about why aren't we doing XYZ. This is going to be the same answer, a much shorter version probably. But so I'm trying to like pound this in to the community's head, like this is the direction. This is why I think this is necessary. I hope most of you agree, like this is the right way to go. And then we take our time, we do it, and we see what happens once it's all in place. Um, so that's all, and that's all I want to talk about that topic for right now. Again, we're gonna have quite a Q&A at the end. Feel free to, if you have any questions, put them there at the end, and I'll talk about them, and we'll discuss them. And Nate and Investy, feel free to jump in if you have any thoughts on any of that. All right, got a thumbs up. Uh, so that being said, I do want to talk about all the other stuff, which again is not as important, uh, as that primary focus, but we're not like forgetting about everything else. We're still going to be working on other things. There's been a lot of progress. I'm gonna talk about it. The first thing I wanted to talk about is soulbound reward cards. Nate shared some exciting eye candy of the new art. We are, you know, we don't have a specific date, but this summer we plan to release a new set of soulbound reward cards. Um, at the plan is that we are going to release the entire set. It's going to be about 42, 43 cards, same size as the old set, all at once. I know that there are a lot of people in the community that have suggested ideas for doing a staggered release of the cards, a smaller number at a time over different months. We discussed that significantly internally. And there are a number of reasons why I don't want to do that. I mean, the number one reason really is because at the end of the day, it's more work. It's going to take more time from the team. Anytime we have something like conflicts, where even if they're like mostly done ahead of time, like every time there's something new being put in, we have to have a release involved. We have to have people working on it. That we have to check on it. It's just work, and the more of those things that we have like scheduled every month or every other month, the more time is taken away from like what I just talked about, which is working on this new player onboarding experience. That's so key and important. So yes, I understand that like some people would prefer to have like things happen more often. It's exciting. I would too. I just, with our limited resources, I just don't think that that's worth it right now. And we are also still planning to do promo card sales probably every other month. So there will be something new. It may not be as exciting as new reward cards. There are other reasons as well. For example, like one of the main incentives and reasoning behind the soulbound reward cards was I wanted to have something where that you can only get through gameplay. I'm personally the type of player where if I can just buy something, I will, and then I'm like totally unincentivized to play the game. And if we release, new reward cards every month or every other month, then the old ones would just become unlockable. And for me, it's just like, okay, I'll just wait a month or two and then just buy them, and then I don't really need to play the game anymore. So it's just one reason I thought that it'd be better to do all at once, and they are all remain soul bound for a long period of time, like a year or so. Um, so I know some people might disagree with that. I apologize. We look at the situation, and based on our priorities and our resources, that's what we've decided we're going with, is releasing the entire set up front at once, like we did in the past. And then the second part of that is at the same time that the new set of reward cards are released, the old set will become unlockable. I'm still working on the exact numbers for that, but the general plan is that they will all be become unlockable at the same time, for a certain amount of DEC, with probably a voucher discount, based on the like collection power of the cards, or some multiple of the collection power. My thinking is that they will start at a lower cost, and the cost to unlock will increase every month or so for 6 months, a year, however long it is. The reasoning behind that is, the preference is that people who want to unlock the cards unlock a lot of cards early on, burn the DEC, burn the vouchers, rather than everyone just sitting on the cards and waiting to see, when or if there is demand on the market. So it's like encouraging people who want to put money into the game, who want to spend the DEC and unlock the cards, because they're planning for the future. They're planning for down the road, a year later, or however, when these cards may become much more scarce and valuable. You unlock them early. You spent the money now, to capitalize on something down the road. So if you want to wait and see what the market is looking like for those cards, you can wait, but the price to unlock is going to slowly increase um, over the course, I think, of a year. And then at the end of that, they'll stop being unlockable. A lot of people have requested, and I agree, that there should be a point where they're done being able to be unlocked. So if you didn't unlock them within that 1 year period, you won't be able to unlock them in the future. And so that way, everyone will be able to see like, this is how many of these cards are available. And it's not just at any time, like more can just be unlocked and dumped onto the market. It limits the amount. So that again, not finalized. Everything is subject to change. That is the current plan, and open to comments and feedback and questions on that. But that's what we're looking at for the soulbound reward cards. Um, we are also, one of the many items on the focus map is skins and cosmetics. Again, this is going to be subject to priorities and when we can get it in, but I would like to at some point have skins and cosmetics in the game, like a full system, not just kind of like a one-off thing like we did for the beta cards, but just a general system so we can easily add skins and cosmetics in the game. And part of the current thinking is to actually make them soulbound as well, like the soulbound reward cards. And I know there's a lot of people on different sides of the aisle on whether things should be soulbound or not. I'm leaning towards that more soulbound is actually much better for, again, this transition to more of a traditional gameplay experience rather than a yield farming or taking money out of the game experience. So if you're here and your goal is to enjoy the game for some number of years and build up your account, this cosmetics and skins are really about showing off, right? It's not about like, hey, I just spent a bunch of money and bought a bunch of things. It's showing off like, hey, I participated. I was here, me on this account, and I did these things over these number of years. So it's again like similar to the soulbound reward cards in a way. It's not like a lot of the things in the game you can just a whale can just come in and buy, and that's that. But these are certain things are a way to like show off your commitment to this game. Like you're not just someone who's here to farm some rewards and sell them and get out. um you're showing off what you've contributed. Um and and as far as I'm not reading the chat, but I don't know if there's a lot of times there's been comments on like soulbound is not web 3, and it's web 2, and that to me is weird because I think it's just wrong. Web 3 doesn't mean that everything is tradable, right? To me, Web 3 means that it's a system that's run in a public and verifiable way, right? So it's not like not private servers. Everything is published on a public chain. Everyone can verify everything. Everything's provably fair. And the second thing about Web 3 to me is that the value is like distributed among everyone in the ecosystem rather than value just going from users to company, right? So you could have a game that none of the assets are tradable, right? It's 100% everything soul bound, just like a normal game. But if it's all still run through a public open blockchain, and maybe there's a token like SPS that all the items are sold for, right, and people earn through playing the game, then that to me is 100% a Web3 game. That'd be a fantastic Web3 game. It doesn't matter if the actual items are NFTs, and they're still NFTs, even if they're soulbound. That doesn't. There's no requirement of NFTs that they have to be tradable. So some of you might disagree with me. That's fine. There's no official definition of Web3 and NFTs, I don't think. But that's how I think about it. I think about it as like public, open, verifiable, and spreading the value among all the participants rather than just one way value to the company and investors. And that's what we're trying to do here. So we're trying to have a situation where people come in for the gameplay experience. They put money in, they build up their account, they show off. They do all the things they do in normal games. And normal games take in billions and billions of dollars yearly. Without the ability to sell assets. The difference here is that if our game is able to take in billions of dollars, that billions of dollars goes out to the players, right, through SPS token and through the items that are tradable. And it's not just all going into the company. The company will benefit as a participant, just like the players. So that's the thinking. That's part of the long-term vision. Some people have been asking for a long-term vision. That's it. Build a billion-dollar plus game, just like any traditional billion-dollar plus game, but have the value be spread out among the all of you. Have you guys participate in the value creation versus other games where you can't participate at all. That's like the real big vision of what Splinterlands is about. And that's kind of what we're looking at, as far as skins and cosmetics, um, at a high level. All right, that's a lot of stuff. Again, anyone feel free to jump in, give my voice a little break. Nate, I don't know if you want to talk anything about skins and cosmetics, 'cause I know you guys have actually done a lot of work on that.
Well, I won't get into the weeds on it, but I will say that for those of you who are curious, like, is there any progress on this at all? Yeah, I mean, um, I've reviewed wireframes and the adjustments we would make to the card detail screen, to the collection screen, to the market screen, things of that nature, in order to kind of like figure out like how to accommodate this new system that we'd like to start kind of get going. So there, we are exploring different possibilities, different ideas. We're looking at tweaking the frame a tiny bit so that the frame changes if you equip a skin. We're looking at the possibility. Of course, everything I'm saying, I feel like the disclaimer. Everything's subject to change. We're just talking right now. We're just talking ideas. The idea that perhaps skins become leveled up, like you can combine them. It's just not just a one-off. I got it and I'm done. Like, add a certain layer of meta to owning, being participating in the skins and cosmetics game, having that social flex. So we'll see where we end up. There's a lot of good ideas being thrown around, and no matter where we end up, we're pretty excited, because as you guys already know, I stopped sharing the skins on town halls and stuff because we just weren't ready to implement yet. But yeah, there's a lot of cool, juicy looking, fun skins that I can't wait for you guys to see. Um, and that bleeds into all the cards you're currently playing in modern. For example, all the reward cards that you're looking forward to unlocking. Those have skins ready to go. The cards we're currently making for the next reward set, those are being made with skins. So we have a library of stuff that we're chomping at the bit to just kind of get to you guys. It's just we got to make sure that the system is in place and just right so that it has its best chance for success. So no, yeah, it's obviously something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, yeah. The UI, the creative team has made a bunch of stuff. They have a bunch of assets ready to go. So I would like to get those uh, utilized if we can. Um, I want to take like 30 more minutes for talking and have at least 30 minutes left for Q&A. And I still have a lot of stuff to talk about. One big topic I want to talk about is the validators and what we're calling SPS chain. It's something I've been thinking a lot about, especially as we're like looking at, keeping our expenses as low as possible for the company. I mentioned that we have two really good developers that are working on validators right now. They have a really good game plan to, I think, to try to get them live. I think by the end of Q3. That might end up going into Q4, but we have really like good people working on it that I trust are going to actually get it done. One of the issues is about the large expense of that project, and that's also taking away from other things. So I plan to go make a DAO proposal. I know there was one in the past by someone else for the DAO to help to fund the creation of validators and SPS chain. I mean, really, the entire reason that the DAO has funds and raised money is to build this. Like the DAO is the one that is supposed to be building out SPS chain, which is what the validators are. Not really the Splinterlands company. And it was our fault, right? We've just been doing it for free this whole time, and I know it's been slow and there hasn't been much progress. But also we've been running the SPS token this whole time ourselves, which I think is bad. And I think from the DAO and the tokens perspective, having our centralized company be the one running the token without any ability for anyone else to independently run the software and verify it is a problem, and that should be top priority for the DAO to address, and it's something that like our company just can't and really shouldn't keep doing. So I plan to go out with a proposal. I'll send a draft around to a number of people beforehand to get feedback. um, but really, like, this is what the DAO's funds are for, to build out the what's needed for the SPS token. um, and the company's not going to be able to keep doing that. And if the community wants and thinks that we're not the right ones to sort of hire to build this, and you want to hire someone else to do it, I don't necessarily see how that would work, especially since we've made so much progress on it to date. But that's completely fine. But ultimately, the company is not going to be able to keep running the SPS token um, for indefinitely in the future, and that's something that the DAO is going to have to take over and hire either us or someone else to build that out and maintain it going forward. So it's like a heads up to everyone that that's coming, and hopefully that you guys can understand that, like, that's really what the DAO's money is for. And if you guys aren't gonna support building out the infrastructure for the DAO's own token, then the Splinterlands company is just not going to be able, and it doesn't make sense for us as a centralized entity to be the ones to keep running and operating that. So that's something I wanted to mention to look out for in the near future. And I, as a community member, hope that most everyone would support that. Um, some other updates. I want to give an update on the fair play policy stuff. You guys know, a couple months ago, I think we implemented our fair play policy in the terms of service, which is around you know that battle helpers and bots are not allowed in many different formats in the game. We've also started a project internally for enforcement of that, because despite it being in the terms of service, it's still being abused. So just want to let everyone know that, like, we've built tools and we're starting to put processes in place that we believe can pretty accurately detect battle helper and bot usage in things like Modern League and tournaments. Um, and we're going to, it's sort of a warning that we're going to start taking action, against accounts that are found to be doing things that are against the fair play policy. So just a quick heads up that is in progress, and a lot of progress is being made, and that's going to start. Enforcement is going to start happening in the near future. Um, so as investigator mentioned earlier, the Soul Keep game is scheduled to launch, I think, next week. So that is very exciting. I want to also be clear that the Soul Keep is no longer Splinterland's game. So it's been sold to Double Coconut. It is 100% completely their game. They are, you know, we have a revenue share deal with them, and for them to use our platform to operate the game, meaning that you'll be able to use the Splinterlands website to open your packs and manage your cards and all that stuff. But everything else is their game. So we're excited for the launch. We look forward to it. But just again, our focus is not on that. So if there's anything related to the management of assets and things within our website, obviously we're going to fix those. Everything else, whether it's feedback, comments, issues, bugs, whatever, is going to need to go to Double Coconut, as we focus on the things I talked about earlier, like our bringing new players into Splinterland specifically. And at some point, the goal is to split that out completely and have them be able to, host the interfaces for pack opening and sales and card combining and all that stuff, on their own site as part of the game. But for now, they're going to be leveraging our site and our services to do that. Um, so we'll see how that goes, and that can potentially be a model if other games in the future want to use our platform in some way to do that. We'll see. We'll kind of see how that goes. It's a learning experience here. But that's something to look forward to for everyone who has nightmare packs. You should be able to open them and start using the cards next week. So that's been a very long time coming. Um, and then, last but not least, I want to talk about land. So, most of the kind of 1.6 items have been done. and we're kind of moving on to starting to get into 2.0. And the team has been looking into what we can do uh, to get out in phases and steps. How can we start introducing more of these things and make land kind of more exciting rather than waiting, another year and have a big drop of everything. So I think I talked about last time, but I'll reiterate. We're looking at adding in to start the additional natural resources, which would be wood, stone, and iron. And so the idea would be based on the terrain type of your plot. Only you know that would determine what natural resource you can make. So not every plot would be able to produce grain anymore, but mountains would produce iron, and forests would produce wood. Um, and then all those resources would be then tradable with DEC pairs in the trade hub. And then all four of those resources would be needed for the research hub and the shard mine. So that way, players, would need to use the trade hub a lot more, which would be good. It would get a lot more volume on the trade hub, which leads to a lot more fees, which hopefully leads to a lot more liquidity and a lot more resources in DEC being locked up there. And then the kind of next part of that is we are intending to start adding utility for research into the game. Long before we get to the whole like Secret of Praetoria ancient ruins construction project. So we're looking at different ideas of how you can maybe divert your research huts into researching other things. Perhaps there'll be certain promo cards where you need to. It'd be sort of like a conflict, but instead of staking your rebellion cards in packs, you would be like assigning your research huts on your land to research this new promo card. And then the amount of research toward that you produce during the time period, that the cards would be distributed among them in the same way the conflicts work. Again, this is just an idea, but the goal is to start adding utility for research in the game, which then adds utility for all of the other resources. And then players who don't have, the land types available to make all those different resources. Maybe you produce a lot of stone. You'll need to trade the stone on the trade hub for the other resources that you need in order to do your research or SPS mining, and add a lot of volume and activity to the trade hub. So again, really excited for that. It's just like starting to scratch the tip of the iceberg on what land is really going to be. But those things are not like huge projects like the full land 2.0. So I'm hoping within, Cryptomancer is the one leading the land project at this point. So, he does a really good job on these things. And my hope is that, within the not too distant future, we can have uh, some of these new things available in land as we start to go toward the full vision. Um, so that kind of covers the main big topics. Is there anything I missed that you guys think we should talk about or you wanted to talk about?
Wow, you went
Mm,
over a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anything else to add to that.
I got pinged in the background. So the two developers working on Validators are not included in the count of five people, five developers working on the main Splinterlands game, just to be clear.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, so there's two developers that are specifically focused on validators, but the assumption is assuming that the DAO can help us and pay for the validator development and wants to hire Splinterlands for the validator development. You know, they will be continuing to work on validators for the foreseeable future. I mean, once they're the initial release, these things aren't just done when they're released. It's going to be an ongoing project. But again, if the DAO doesn't want to hire Steam Monsters Corp to do that and wants to go another direction, that's fine too. But then obviously we're gonna stop working on that. Um,
Let's see. Other things that I don't think you touched on, but I did have to run AFK for a minute. Mobile, we're going to continue trying to do improvements across the site for the mobile experience. Part of that is the tech modernization, but beyond that, we're also going to try to review pages and clean them up as we can with the developers we have. And yeah, just other quality of life. So as people suggest stuff, we will try to incorporate improvements into the game, which, as Nate said, thank you for giving UX suggestions in Discord. We appreciate the feedback. I think those are the main things that I wanted to try.
Yeah, no, those are good. I mean, obviously, yeah, the mobile experience is part of the onboarding experience. I have a feeling that a lot of the 100 people a day that come are on mobile, and the experience isn't great there. So, part of improving our conversion rates is that project. And we've I think you mentioned that I think the tournaments page is going to be updated soon, and we have people working on the updating the battle screens, just to make the full mobile experience. And also, then will be done. Some people have commented on, like, why does it switch between the two subdomains in the site? That's because not everything's been updated yet. So once that project's done, there will be no switching back and forth. For that. I'm seeing in chat Dave McCoy is suggesting I discuss the runway of the company, and that's an important and good topic. I mean, oh, did you have something else, investigator?
Two things. I'm getting pinged about, or remind me about stuff. As an additional land one, we did have a poll about tundras and canyons.
Oh yeah, tundras and canyons. Good, thank you
there.
for the reminder.
If you want to go into that.
Yeah. So Royal Eagle led the charge to get a bunch of player feedback on the issue with tundras and canyons, and that's one of the things that I apologize that has gone this long. I think based on the feedback and the comments, and just to let people know, when we have these surveys, just answering the poll questions is great, but also leaving comments of, like, why you choose one or the other is very helpful. So I encourage everybody to do that when we collect feedback in this way. Um, I think ultimately, after discussing with the team, what we plan to do is just change the percentages on tundras and canyons to be the same, +10% and -50%, for the same elements, the same splinters or elements of cards that they currently have a bonus for or a penalty for. So if it's +5%, just changing it to +10%. If it's -10%, just changing it to -50%. So it matches the other ones. So they'll have a slight advantage in that they have um, three elements that would have a bonus instead of two, to sort of make up for the fact that they had a disadvantage for so long. And by doing it this way, I know the other option, which a lot of people liked, was giving them a benefit for neutrals. But there were some potential issues with that I really wanted to avoid and not make this like a big thing. So by just keeping the bonuses and penalties the same, but changing the amounts to make them in line with the other terrain types, it just means there's like minimal problems, right? It works the same as everything else. And then also for people who have those plot types, they don't need to then go and redo all the cards on them also, which is kind of a big potential negative for people who have those, who already had negatives on them. So you can just, if you already have the cards that had bonuses, their bonuses will be bumped up to the same rate as every other plot type, and you don't have to change anything about your plots. So that's the plan that we are currently planning to move forward with, and that should be implemented in the near future. And what, you have one more?
One more. Ranked play. I don't know if you touched on all of the things we've discussed about ranked play, but should note that we're evaluating Wild, and if we want to make some changes to probably the glint bonus to make it a little bit more in line with Modern, since now that it requires Wild Pass, there's no longer the 100,000 starter accounts, bot
Yeah,
accounts filling in there. Um,
yeah, no,
the
100%. I mean,
leaderboard
we were
is
looking. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
another item on that. Sorry, and we're also going to evaluate maybe changing up leaderboards, and I'll let you expand on those two
Oh,
ranked points.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, originally we had given more glint in Modern, right, to encourage people to move from Wild to Modern, but now we're handling that in a different way. And it's not like super easy to just go get a whole bunch of glint in Wild anymore. So I think we want to make sure that, like, players are able to earn similar amounts of glint in both formats. We're going to look at the data from this first season after the Wild Pass change, and adjust it as necessary, so that, like, players who play in both formats have similar abilities to earn glint at similar levels. And yeah, we definitely want to redo the leaderboards. Again, it's not something that hasn't been done because we don't want to do it. It's been figuring out what to do, and then just priorities. I think the leading suggestion is to take like the top 200 people on the leaderboard and allow them to play in a tournament for the prizes every season. And that gets a lot of the issues out of the way of like, you know, um, the few same people competing for the top spot or whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter as long as you're in that top 200 um, on the leaderboard. You'll be entered in this tournament, and we'll have our new fair play policy tools in force for these tournaments to try to make sure that battle helper use isn't happening, and all these other things. And that way, so the top 200 players can battle in a tournament for the rewards each season. And then as part of the cosmetics, we were hoping we could add in cosmetics. So the player who gets to the top, one or the top five or whatever it is, will have some type of badges or visual indicators for the next season to show off their position. So that's currently I guess, the leading plan for how we look at dealing with leaderboards. Does that cover it? I think, Investi.
I think so. Yeah, that's I think everything, and we're pretty close to half an hour left for questions. So
Yeah. All right. So let me talk about the runway of the company and where we're at overall. So I look at runway's been one of the problems with runway is there's a lot of variables. So a lot of things that Agrode or other people have said in the past were hard to understand what they mean because there was a lot of assumptions included in them. Um, so I look at, first and foremost, assuming zero revenue, which is we're at a relatively low revenue state. So that's closer to where we're at. Assuming zero revenue, we only have about 6 or 7 months of runway for the company right now, and that may sound scary to a lot of people, but there's a couple factors that I look at that increases our realistic runway to a much more reasonable level. So that again means, like, if like there's literally zero, no one buys anything, we don't get any money in from anything, 6 or 7 months. One of the things is I talked about asking the DAO to help take over the costs of validator development. Those are very significant costs that would decrease our expenses significantly. That would by itself extend our runway. I've discussed that I plan to do a proposal to the Hive DAO, and I've been discussing that with a number of Hive stakeholders, and I hope that will be approved, and that will give us additional runway. Um, some of the things I do expect there to be some amount of revenue, either from promo card sales or at the end of the year. Rebellion is selling out, and we typically see an uptick of pack sales at the end of a set. I think Rebellion is going to be a very small set historically. So you know for players at the end who want to kind of load up on what is going to be a very low print rate set, that might be an opportunity. So with all those things combined, I see that easily gets us through 12 months of runway for the company, which is what I look at as sort of a bare minimum. We have been, and we continue to look for opportunities for raising capital. I just want to be very careful about raising capital. We've had significant issues with some of the investors that have come in the past. Um, and it's kind of like made me well aware that just like you don't just want to take money from anyone who comes in and offers money, especially at when things are kind of at a low point right now. Investors might ask for a lot of rights, and investors are often not aligned with our community and what the community wants. That's also part of what I think got us into some of the problems that we're in now over the past years, is investors kind of push for increasing revenue month over month. They push for more sales and more product. They just want to get higher revenues so they can go and have an exit ASAP, which doesn't really benefit. It hurts the community at the end of the day. So, I've also brought someone in about 3 months ago that has much more experience with, just operating companies and getting them in a position to raise capital and, consider all these things. So, he's going to be helping out with that whole process. So, I'm not personally all that worried about the company just like running out of money and shutting down. I don't really think that's going to happen. Obviously, if things continue for the next year or so, and there's not really improvement from all the things I talked about previously in the town hall, that is a possibility. But right now, based on our current funds, even with zero revenue, and then plus all the things I mentioned, which are pretty high probability, um, we're easily fine at least through the next year. And like I said, I fully expect next year to be a really big year. I think the things that we're working on with the new player onboarding, that we're going to be focusing on and putting money into marketing, is going to pay off well before then. And then this won't even hopefully be a discussion item at some point by this point next year. But that's where we're at. I'm more of the opinion that we should be fully open and transparent with the community, on those things, and that's where we stand right now. Um, so I guess I really think we covered everything at this point. But in case we missed anything, I'm sure the community will ask a question about it. So Ron or Azaria, let's get the message in chat to open things up for questions, and we'll take those for the next 30 minutes or so. And then, as always, again, I want to mention, if you don't get your question in, or you're not on the call, you're listening to it later, feel free to post your question in the town hall chat. Ideally, start it with the word question in bold and big letters so I don't miss it. And a few times a week I go through and I answer those. All right, let me give it a second for the questions to roll in. And Ron, if you're watching, I'm not really keeping up on the other chats from like YouTube and Twitch. So if you see questions come in there, feel free to jump in, um, and let me know. All right, the first one I see in the Discord chat is from Nerd Cthulhu. What are my initial thoughts on the Wild Pass? Is the voucher cost too cheap? Is it worth it to make it vouchers only, or maybe until supply drops a lot, since we have so much less voucher sinks and DEC sinks? Um, yeah, I mean, so far I'm generally happy with the Wild Pass. And like I said, we're going to look at the data from the first season and see if some things need to be adjusted in Wild with Glint or other things. The question with vouchers is a bigger question than just the Wild Pass. There's been a lot of talk in the community and people with me about vouchers. I mean, my honest opinion is that I think vouchers were a mistake. I would like to see vouchers gone. My understanding is that there's many people in the community that disagree with that, and such a proposal to do that wouldn't pass, so I'm not pushing for it. But vouchers are kind of a big problem for everything we do. It's like, how do we factor in vouchers, and what's going to happen with vouchers and all these different things. And ultimately, it just they were supposed to be this incentive for staking SPS, but now we have all these other incentives. I don't really think vouchers incentivize people to stake SPS that much. And meanwhile, they cause a lot of work, and things for pricing literally everything in the game. So my opinion is, if we're keeping vouchers, which it seems likely that we are, to probably like change how they work, and maybe have like certain things in the game that you can only get with vouchers, and maybe have a different way of pricing them, rather than having like everything, from pack sales to whatever, having these voucher discounts, because it's also difficult and problematic for new players. Especially, it's hard to get vouchers. There's the whole like swapping back with like vouchers between the SPS chain, and it's like causes problems for validators and extra issues. It's just confusing with this, these like different pricing mechanisms with the discounts, and they're worth different things different places. So that's you're asking a very specific thing, is like the voucher cost too cheap, for the Wild Pass. Overall, my preference would just be to have everything just be DEC and burn DEC, and that's the best way to get value, where we want it to go. But as long as vouchers exist, I think I have an obligation to make sure they can be used for different things. So for now, as it is, vouchers are going to stay as they are for the Wild Pass, and otherwise, until we have a good plan, that the community ultimately agrees with, for changing how they work. And there's a part two of that question. With CL packs being under 50 cents, would you consider a promo payable with only CL packs? Um, Yeah, possibly. I mean, I guess ultimately they could just one of the things that a lot of people suggest, and that's not a lot different than like burning cards. And a lot of people have suggested like, oh, we should do a thing where you have to burn cards to get it. And one of the reasons, and I thought that for a while, and was planning a card burning event, and I started working on it, and I realized it doesn't seem like that great idea to me. And that's because we already have a mechanism for burning cards. You can already burn them for dark energy crystals. So to me, I just want to do more stuff that requires dark energy crystals, and then some people may choose to just burn cards as a way to get the dark energy crystals to get the things. So like we don't need something that is burning cards only. We already have the mechanism to go through the oversupply. And at some point it'll be worth it to buy up Chaos Legion packs and just burn all the cards and get your DEC and then buy whatever new thing it is. So I guess my preference is we just do add lots of cool new stuff that people want and have it be for dark energy crystals, and then players can burn Chaos Legion or other cards to get it. Um, let's see. Question from Intrepid Surfer: will the validators be using a mix of proof of stake and proof of work? No, it'll be completely proof of stake. So the idea is the validators are planned to work pretty much exactly like the Hive blockchain or EOS or Tron. I think works similarly, where it's just a delegated proof of stake mechanism. So I think it talks about that in the white paper. I'm not sure how in details it goes, where you can look at how Hive works, but people who have SPS tokens staked can vote for who they want the validators to be. And anyone who runs the software can earn the rewards for it based on the amount of SPS voting for them. But there's not planned to be any proof of work like mining for SPS validators. Um, Question from Fat Jimmy: what about the Hive DAO who has a 200K a day budget, if I understand correctly, and much of it going unused, kicking in to get validators finished? Yeah, so I mentioned I plan to go to the Hive DAO. I I think it makes sense that the SPS DAO should pay to build validators. It's their own token. That they like, what is the money for if not to build out the infrastructure for your own token? I think the Hive DAO should. I plan to go to the Hive DAO and just say, hey, the Splinterlands company, we need help. And the pitch is basically like, obviously we've contributed a ridiculous amount to Hive in the past and currently. So I think it would be silly for the Hive DAO not to help us. But the flip side is also that like one of the issues with going out to investors and raising money from investors is almost all of them are associated in some way with other blockchains, right? And the discussion is always, why are you on Hive? Why don't you go to whatever new fancy blockchain it is that they like? And a lot of these blockchains have grant programs, right? They offer millions of dollars of investment or money or grants or whatever for projects to come build there. And like if Hive wants to have projects stay on their platform, they're going to need to offer help to them. So you know, uh, to me, it's a no-brainer as a Hive user, and I've talked to a number of other Hive ecosystem, like whales and participants who kind of agree. So that's the way I think it makes the most sense to split it up. Like the SPS DAO should pay to build out the SPS validators and the SPS token infrastructure. I mean, that should have been the case from day one, and it was just like our mistake for not doing that and like sort of setting this precedent that like the company for some reason just builds out all this stuff for the DAO. Like that's what the money was raised for, to like so the DAO can build out its own infrastructure. So even asking Hive to pay for that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, um, because it's building out a separate token, even though it is built on top of Hive. Like that's what the SPS DAO is for. It has funds for that purpose. But the Hive DAO should chip in to just help the Splinterlands company. Um, make sure we have enough runway, make sure that if some things go poorly or it takes longer than I expect for the next big bull run to come, uh, that we're still here, we're still building on Hive and contributing. So that's my plan for how to split those two things out. I mean, ultimately it's more money coming into the company to go toward all these things. But that's I think what makes most sense of like who should pay for what. Um, Question from Paul TRX: for the new soulbound cards, if there's no extremely high priced early unlock fee, there's a chance a new player comes in and gets beat by a soulbound card and looks to buy it but can't, and then just leaves the game. When I first started and a card beat me and it was reasonably priced, I bought it. If that's not available, a new player could keep getting beat by a soulbound card and just leave the game. Um, I mean, I don't know. I don't like the soulbound cards are going to become unlockable. So I'm not really. So you're just saying there. I guess I'm not understanding. You're saying if there's not an extremely high priced early unlock fee,
He's
then
saying the next set of soulbound cards should be unlockable as soon as they're released, I believe. The
oh
new
well,
soulbound set.
yeah. I guess again, I just disagree with that. And if a player's going to come in and just like there's a card that they need to earn through playing and they can't buy and they lose to it and that means they leave the game, like I don't know, that seems people are going to do what people are going to do. That seems a bit strange. I mean, the goal should be to encourage them to play the game and earn those cards. And the idea of everything we're trying to set up also with the modern bots, that's something I didn't talk about. The you know what are they called, the non-earning bot or the liquidity
Liquidity bots.
bots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to ensure like that players will play against decks that are evenly matched for them. So that doesn't mean they'll have every card that their opponent has, but generally they'll. It's not like they're just losing all the time. Because people have these cards that they don't have, like they should move down to a level where they're playing against people that they can beat, and people who have all those cards should move up to a level where they're playing against people that they, that are good matches for them. So, you know, I don't think it matters whether the cards are soulbound or not. I mean, that would be a problem if they're getting beaten by really high-powered, expensive cards that they don't have. Like, if we're not matchmaking appropriately, it's going to be a problem, regardless of whether cards are soulbound or unlockable or any of that. So that's to me like I like the plan that we're going with soulbound reward cards, and we just need to ensure that players get matched appropriately most of the time. Um, Question from Juice: for the unlocking of soulbound cards, you pay to buy or rent cards to play. You pay to buy SPS to stake or must rent SPS to get glint to earn the cards. Reward cards are exactly that, rewards for investment with time and money. Don't you think it's a kick in the nuts asking us to pay to unlock the cards we've already earned? Um, no, I don't. I mean, there's no. First of all, just to say, like, no one ever said you're going to come and play this game and you're just going to get stuff, right? I mean, that's the wrong. It's a complete wrong mentality, and that's what I've been talking about like the transition phase that we're going to. We've had all these people that come in and just assume like, okay, I've done these things, I should get all this stuff. Like that's not how it works. It can't work that way. It literally just the system doesn't work that way. That's why the game has gotten to the point that it has, and many other projects have gotten to the point that it has. So you think of it like a normal I think of it like Magic the Gathering, right? You don't assume that because I bought a bunch of cards and I play a bunch of games against my friends every day that I'm going to get a bunch of money, or stuff that I can sell that has value. So no, what happens is in Splinterlands though, you can put in value, you can buy cards, and you earn things like SPS, right, which has value. It's like a stake in the whole system, right? The more value that comes into the system, the more valuable the SPS is. And if you play and you earn these soulbound cards, it gives you the ability to move up, to do better, and to earn more SPS, right? So that's the mechanism that I think that's how it should work. So you don't necessarily just get stuff because even if you bought stuff in the game and you play the game, and you move up in the game, you don't just keep getting more stuff. And there shouldn't be an expectation that you should always get stuff, or everything that you get you can just sell. But the idea is that we want players who want to build up their accounts, build up their ability to earn more SPS and more like stake in the game system, um, over time by playing and participating. So yeah, I mean that's what I think about that. I don't think it's a kick in the nuts. It's only a kick in the nuts because it's worked the other way for so long. But to me, I look at that as like you got all this stuff for so long. People who were here and they were able to extract so much value from the system for so long, and now we're taking that away. So that's always difficult for people. But it's ultimately the right way for this system to function, in my opinion. Um, Marketable says, is there a world where we could start including different payments in the Glint store, like champion points for limited tradable items? This would highly encourage people to climb. This is the type of thing where I really look for the skins and cosmetics to come in. There's so many different things in the game, which we want to allow people to use for something, and we just don't have that much stuff in the game. And or the things in the game that we do have are like, tradable items that we need to be careful how we give them out. So if we have like a really robust skins and cosmetic systems, maybe there's certain things that you can only buy with champion points, right? Or you just get for having a certain amount of champion points. Maybe there's things that you can only get with vouchers, or things that you can research with land, things like that. So you know, that's what I'm thinking for those type of things. Like my hope is this: the skins and cosmetics give us a lot of opportunity to allow these other points and things in the game to become more useful. Question from Rift Summoner: what's the initial price range for the next set price per singular pack purchase? Um, if you mean like the next like main set after Rebellion, I mean I haven't really thought about it at all because we're not really close to that at all. But if we were doing it now, I would keep the price the same. I know a lot of people don't like some people don't like the price, think it should be less or whatever, but I disagree with that. And I think that the cards, we need to give them value by pricing them appropriately. And I think the $4 price point is pretty decent for that. And it also can encourage people to use the rental market, right? More, and have that be more of a thing. And with set rentals that are coming soon, I hope that will happen. So things could change completely by the time we get to the next set, and we'll evaluate at that time. But I don't see any issue with the current pricing right now. Um, Question from Booker Man: are there any thank you, Booker Man, for reminding me. Yes, so I will be posting more details in the official announcements shortly after this town hall. But the wrestling, the Woo game, which I don't remember, Wrestling Online Organization, which is another game on Hive, which I encourage everyone to check out, is going to be doing a really cool promotion that is going to allow people to spend SPS and DEC tokens to buy the new items. And my understanding is that all the tokens are going to be burned. Um, so again, I will post all the information with a link to the site in official announcements a little later today, and I encourage everyone to check that out. And it's always really exciting to have other games and projects in the ecosystem integrating Splinterlands tokens. So thank you for reminding me, Booker Man, and we'll get the details out for everybody.
Yeah, there was that Immortal Creed project that also is going to be accepting DEC per proposal they put up.
Yes, yeah, good point there. So that's a second project that you guys should check out. There's a DAO proposal live with more details, and this is a great, I think, opportunity going forward to see like more, like being able to work with more games, and maybe we could expand that. That's part of the thing. Like maybe with marketing, a marketing person can work on other cross promotions or ways to to do things with other projects in the future. Um, okay, King Arminius has a question. What do I think about the idea of an update for the glitch shop? Oh, did I miss something? Oh, okay. My bad. So Ron is informing me that he put a screenshot of the YouTube questions in the Discord chat, which is great, Ron. Thank you. And I just like I see a screenshot or a picture and I just scroll past it, but now I'll pay attention. So I'll get to King Arminius. I'll get to your question in a second. First, there's a question from False Prophet. Can you please let us edit and delete our chats in Guild Tavern chat? All the typos I make, the guild thinks I'm special. Uh, Yes, that is, one of those quality of life things that I kind of leave those up to the team, and they put those in here and there when they can get to them. So, Investi or Royal or whatever, if you guys want to, throw that in somewhere, certainly no problem with that. Um, all right, back to King Arminius' question about the glint shop. Every season, you could do a one-time purchase of a random 10x common, 5x rare, 2x epic, 1x legendary of the current Soulbound reward set. with the cards offered being reset and newly randomized with each season. So if you're saying like have a specific card of if I'm reading this correctly, you're saying like have a specific legendary card, which you can say I want to buy this card, and I know there's no randomness. I know for sure it's that card, and you can just buy one of them maybe, and then different amounts for the other rarities. So if I'm understanding that correctly, and someone jump in if they understand it differently, yeah, that's something we have discussed and might look at doing, having like a card of the day or something, available in the Glint shop. So again, we've talked about in the past, like we want to continue to expand the Glint shop over time and keep adding new cool stuff. So maybe we'll see things like that at some point. Question from Quasar: do you think charge is overpowered in the Fog of War rule set, just like opportunity had been before it was added to the rule set's description and nerfed? Have you considered updating the Fog of War rule set to include charge as well? So that's a good question. I don't know. We have Call Me Tim. He's the one who kind of looks at those things. So I'll note down that question and bring it to his attention, and maybe he can post an answer in town hall later when he's available. Just as having taken over as CEO and running the company, like I just unfortunately don't have time to really look into that stuff in the same way I used to in the past. So I leave that to him to look at, and other people on the team. Obviously, he's just like kind of in charge of that project. No pun intended. Um, Question follow up from Intrepid Server: when SPS rewards finish, what is the incentive for the validator to operate? Yes, so that is a very good question. And what's the incentive for anything in the game? So the idea is that when the SPS rewards finish, the DAO will have significant amounts of SPS tokens that it can decide to allocate to things like validator rewards and in-game rewards. So that's one option. Um, but there's any number of options on the table with like some new things or other incentives, or possibly people are just naturally incentivized to keep operating it because they want the token to keep operating. So I don't have a specific answer, but there are, I mean, the idea is, I guess, ultimately to build a self-sustainable DAO without any new token issuance. So the idea is the DAO will keep selling new things in the Splinterlands game. They will keep earning new dark energy crystals and SPS tokens, and then they can use those to pay out things that they want to incentivize. I mean, that's ultimately like the sustainability model that I envisioned for this. Question: when Ronin from Crypto Primo 7. Um, if you mean the Ronin blockchain that like is I think what Axie Infinity operates on, we don't currently have any plans to do anything with that. If there's an opportunity there, we would certainly pursue it. If it's about something else, let me know with a follow up, I guess. Um, I don't know how many questions there are, but maybe in a few minutes, Ron, we can just end the question thing, like maybe at 10 of or something. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Um, Question from Gathering the Magic. You mentioned getting rid of vouchers. Would making them soulbound be a viable alternative? Yeah, I think making them soulbound would be better. Um, and that's certainly so. Like, I would be open for anything that helps out with vouchers, to make them less of a problem. Like, it's hard. I guess I didn't have like notes written out specifically on like what specifically all the issues with vouchers are, but I know I had written them down at some point. But like, they cause a lot of problems for us, and I think for the ecosystem. So yeah, making them soulbound helps. It doesn't solve everything, because there's still like we still always need to figure out like what are vouchers used for and how can we use them. But it would reduce a lot of the issues on like how do we value them and are they valued different all these different places. Like they wouldn't at that point they wouldn't have a dollar value at all, and like players would effectively assign value to them for different things. Certain things would just cost X number of vouchers, and you can decide whether that's worth it or not. So I think that does solve some of the problems and would be an improvement, um, at least with the current compared to the current situation. And it would again go like I was talking about earlier, how I think soulbound is generally better. It gets people more into the mindset of like, being a part of this ecosystem for the long term rather than extracting from the ecosystem. So yeah, you want to stake your SPS tokens, you want to earn these things, you want to use, and they're not sellable, so you can't just extract. You need to take them and put them back into building up your account more, using them to buy skins or cosmetics or soulbound reward cards or whatever it is, or promo cards, and just like build up your account for the long term rather than extract value through external markets. Um, so the answer is yes. I think that would be a step in the right direction. Um, a question from Ant Minor Jackal. Is there any chance we can get a bit more conversation about the price of Soulbound unlock price, even if it's just a spitball number that's subject to change? Currently, most of the community is operating off of the 16x burn, or was it 18x number from before? Is that number still in line? Does it need adjusting? Um, yeah, no, I understand. Uh, that so my current thinking is something like starting at around 10x and then increasing up to 20x. I talked about it increasing month by month. So maybe like every month for 10 months, it increases from 10x to 20x burn price. And then some amount of voucher discount, which is TBD. Because again, that's what the current plan for vouchers is. So include it. I've been looking at that based on current card prices on the market, and that seems that it would price the soulbound reward cards somewhat in line with things like rebellion cards, and rift watcher cards, which is what I'm going for. We don't want them to be like super cheap, like chaos legion cards. I don't think. I'd like, I've talked about a while back, the idea of having like general prices for all cards, right? And so it's not like some sets are super cheap and some are super expensive, but like every new thing we put out, all new cards, like have a similar base pricing. So I was looking at 10x potentially increasing to 20x with a voucher discount, as the current thought process, and we'll continue to take feedback and ideas, and until we get to the final number. Question from Nerd Cthulhu: with 200K less battles per day, how significantly might this lower server costs and improve the runway outlook? Is server still a huge expense? Yeah, servers are still a huge expense, and that is 100% one of the things we plan to look at. I mean, generally, we're looking at all different ways to reduce our hosting costs. So yeah, I mean, one of the sort of you know not purposeful side effects of some of the changes we've made is that it can really lower the amount of activity. Um, and so, yeah, we're going to see if I don't have any numbers to share on that because we haven't like specifically looked at that yet. Um, Imposter is asking, would you consider stopping the mint of vouchers but make them only burnable for DECB? In place of vouchers, SPS may be able to earn battle energy, Clint, or time crystals. I mean, yeah, so like again, vouchers is a DAO thing, right? Like SPS token. So that's completely up to the DAO, how those are minted, and kind of what we do with them. We decide how they're used in game for the different products and things that they're used for. But if it was up to me, yeah, like I said, I would probably get rid of vouchers and find some mechanism for just, for everyone that has vouchers to convert them to something else, whether it's DECB or, maybe do a special promo card or something. It's just a way to like get vouchers out of the system. Open to ideas, and we'll see what the community ultimately wants to do. Um, but yes, I would definitely consider stopping the minting of vouchers. And also I think like, again, the more stuff we put out, it's just dilutive, right? So vouchers basically are diluting the value of SPS at the end of the day, right? If we just take away vouchers, the same amount of money would be coming into the system and going out of the system. It just like wouldn't have this other thing to then be going into, right? Everything that people are purchasing that they currently use vouchers for, they would just have to use DEC for. There would be no voucher discount. All the wild passes, all the everything would just be more DEC burning, which gives more value to SPS. Um, and so vouchers are just like taking some portion of the value from the SPS token and putting them into these voucher tokens. And the idea was that that would somehow encourage people to stake more SPS. I just don't think that's really happening. And there's better ways to encourage SPS staking. So I just think it's not working, and it's taking away value. So I'd prefer to just rip the band-aid off, get rid of it, figure out a transition plan, and move forward. But we'll see. Perhaps there'll be some proposals, and I'm happy to look at proposals and give my thoughts or ideas on it, if people have some in mind. Um, Antminer Jackal is asking what happens to non-unlocked soulbound cards after the one period is talked about. Yeah, if you don't unlock them during that period, then they will be forever soulbound. Is the thinking. So again, like the idea is to avoid a situation where, like, I guess the idea of these games is that all the cards are limited, all the assets are limited. And so that over time, if the game grows and there's more demand for these limited assets, they can become more valuable. That's one of the exciting and fun things about games like this and Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. um, so if there's just so many of these soulbound reward cards out there among all these different bot accounts and other places, that if they're just open to be unlocked indefinitely, then the price can never really appreciate indefinitely, unless there's like really just a ridiculous amount of new players coming in to actually go through the whole supply. So the idea is like there's a 1 year period. And if people want to put up money to unlock those cards during that 1 year period, they may not be able to sell them yet, but they're sort of looking forward into the future, where those cards might be scarce and valuable. And so after that period, no more will be able to be unlocked. And you'll be able to see like, this is it. This is the amount that was unlocked. And that's what we're going for. So, and you're asking if you can continue to use it. You continue to use it 100%. It would just still be soulbound. So you wouldn't be able to trade it or sell it or anything like that. But you can use it in battles. Um, Scrolling down to find questions. Question from Icy Flow: will SPS rewards increase now that there are less players? Yeah, well, wild SPS rewards increase. Yeah, I mean they should 100%. I haven't specifically looked at them. I mostly play in modern, but Investi, I don't know if you've looked at that, but I would imagine they would increase on average.
Yeah, they have. I mean, it's usually takes about 15 days for the SPS to balance out to massive changes to the play. But I'm pretty sure it's gone up by a few SPS. It is kind of depends on your SPS stake,
Yeah.
as always. But on average, the amount given out has gone up since there's far less accounts.
Yeah, the reward pool is the same size. That didn't change. So the reward pool is now being split among many fewer accounts. Now, a lot of those accounts were only getting small amounts as they were kind of at the bottom of the rankings. But whatever amount all those accounts were getting is now being split up among other accounts. But again, it depends. Like if you don't have much SPS staked in your account, you might not be seeing a big increase, whereas other people may be seeing more. Um, Question from Marketable: stealing an idea from Bronze Dragon Gaming from YouTube. Is there a possibility, excuse me, to add abilities or added stats to existing cards through a skin? I realize that may be hard to program. However, make a skin more worthwhile versus just aesthetics. Personally, I'm geared toward utility overlooks. Yeah, this is something we've talked about, and I think would be very cool. This, even if I think it might be cool, I don't know that it will necessarily happen, but we are trying to figure out like really neat ways to give value to skins. I mean, easy ways are to make them sort of like gold foil cards where they give you a boost to your glint and SPS earnings. Other cool ways, maybe there's skins that give you boosts to production on land. Maybe there's skins that give you boosts to things like conflicts. um I think we're going to try to look at a lot of those other things before we look at like updating the actual stats on cards for gameplay. But I do think it would be cool and not something like out of the realm of possibility. Question from Danny Boz: what's the current plan to unlock soulbound reward cards? Are they rotating out of modern with core CL cards at the same time? Yeah, so I talked about, you're asking about the burn value. I talked about what we're thinking about as far as burn value, which is probably starting at 10x and going up to 20x over the course of 10 months. So you can do the math on that. There's a whole paragraph here on the math and commenting, but I'm not going to read through that right now. Just in essence of time. Um, and then as far as rotating out of modern, yeah, I think the plan is that when Chaos Legion rotates out of modern, they would rotate with them. But again, when we get to that, we'll make a final decision. That's still a while out. see what other questions we have with a couple minutes left. Fat Jimmy says, any word on earning some glint for losses? It had been mentioned, considered previously, but I haven't heard if it's in the works. Yeah, it's not something in the works. It was one of those ideas that's still floating around. So maybe, maybe Royal, if you want to do some more community feedback and see how much people would like that idea. I know some people definitely didn't like that idea, just FYI. So it's currently just an idea. It's not slated to happen. And maybe if we find out if the community generally wants that, then we can put it in the to-do list. um Question: does Call Me Tim use Discord? How can we have a conversation with him? Can he participate in the town hall to talk about his views and balance? Yeah, I don't know that he uses Discord very often. I will try to ping him with the specific questions that are for him and ask him to come and, like, shoot and answer in the town hall channel. And I'll see if he's interested in coming on in one of the future town halls to specifically talk about this stuff. um that's a good question. um any plans to make recharge great again? Uh, yeah, I also think recharge kind of sucks. So that's one of those call me Tim questions. I will hope that you try to get him to answer.
I don't know if again's appropriate in that sentence, but sure.
Just make recharge great. It was great in theory, you know. Um, Question: could there be an option to burn DEC and get glint? There's been talk about burning different things to get glint. I don't like it, again, because the whole idea of glint was you have to play to get it, and it was like this one thing where you can't just come in as a whale and just pay and get everything. And I just really like that. That, yes, whales can come in and they can buy a ton of stuff real fast, but there are these some things that you just can't come in and get. So um, maybe like a certain limit, like there's limits to how much glint you can, how many draws you can buy per season. So maybe like there'll be a certain limit, like you can buy a certain amount of glint every season with DEC, or maybe maybe even research some extra glint or something like that. I wouldn't make it open ended, just because I really want to keep it so that there's some things you have to play and you have to participate in the game uh to get.
You can buy energy with DEC and play more matches to try to earn more glint.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, that's a better answer. You should just cut me off. Yeah, you spend your DEC, buy energy, play more, and earn more glint, and that's you effectively buy. And then you add more liquidity to the game, and everyone's happy. So everyone just do that, and everything's good. All right, that's the end of the questions. It's pretty much exactly 2 o'clock Eastern. It's been 2 hours. There's been a ton of stuff. I can't imagine I missed anything, but if I did, again, throw your questions in the town hall chat. I'll try to get to them, once or twice a week until the next town hall. Thank you again to everyone who's here. I've had so much support from the Yabat Map promo card, which we're going to try to put out as the next scheduled promo card release. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support. We wouldn't be here without all of you guys. We still have a an uphill climb to go for a while. But like I said, I just really see amazing things happening within the next year. I don't see too much issue of us, making it or being around through that. And it's really just a matter of how much we can capitalize on that. And like I said, I think there's a ton of opportunity to do that, especially if the community's on board with us, if the DAO is open to help, do its part. Um, yeah, I don't know. I look forward to next year being above and beyond what 2021 was in all sorts of ways. And the people who are here and kind of stick with us, and participate and support us, are the ones who are going to benefit from that. So that's all of you who are here listening. So thank you again. We'll talk to you in a month. Do we have what's the date of that? It looks like July 18th. It's going to be an evening town hall, at least for Eastern US time. So it'll be 7 p.m. Eastern US time, which I think is like 11 p.m. UTC time. So whatever, it'll be posted in Discord. It'll convert it into your time zone much better than I'm doing. And we'll see you in a month. Thank you, everyone.
This is our story, the one where we will not accept defeat. This is our ending, where you and I will not accept defeat. Suffer our enemies, rebel against the ones who took our peace. This is our story, the one where we will not accept defeat. Justice and glory, rebel against destroyers of our peace. And rising up we shall find our battle cry of hope and victory.
When chaos reigns and hope is lost, when your darkest days aren't saved by the dawn, we bring the light to help guide the way. We are with you. We are the Rift Watchers. When your enemies have spread far and wide, when you're out of places to run and hide, follow the runes, help is on the way. We stand with you.